Exciting week. We've got a great challenge ahead of us. Obviously, a night game on the road with a tremendous SEC opponent who's got multiple blue chip recruits, great scheme, great coaches. Beat the number 2 team at the time, Georgia. So it's going to be a tremendous challenge for our guys. A great game for us to refocus. A great opponent to work towards this week, and we're excited about the opportunity. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Coaches, you guys went back and had a chance to review the Georgia Southern film. What were the the major takeaways for opportunities going forward?
The game boils down to a couple of things. Obviously, in the first half, offensively, we had 5 possessions. The first 5 possessions we punted. On 3 of those, we had third and short yardage that we didn't convert. Defensively, we had a pass interference call that gave them the ball on the 2-yard line on a third down that didn't help us, and then we had 2 explosive plays to start the third quarter. If several of those things go in our direction, then it's a different outcome. But we got to continue to work to improve, to eliminate those mistakes or those issues, and we will. It was a good ball game, 24-21 in those conditions. Neither team had a turnover. We just got to find a way at the end to win the game, and offensively, we got to do a better job in that 2-minute drive.
You've got veteran players who've been in this similar situation before as far as league standings, the East Division, that type of thing. How much easier does it make it for the coaching staff that you've got player leadership that understands the dynamic that they're in and kind of how to handle this, so that you maybe can let them manage some of that locker room psyche while you guys are able to focus on the executional side?
Well, I think our psyche is the exact same. It's about 1-0. It's about giving it 24 hours and moving on. There's a lot of football left for everybody to play, and so to think that a game that happens October 31st is going to be the final outcome of the season, I think it is a long way away. So, yes, we'll rely on our seniors, but we rely on our coaching staff to relay the same message that we had yesterday, which is, guys, we got 4 more opportunities to be 1-0. And at the end of the year, we'll look back and we'll stack it up and see where that measures. But there's a lot of football left to be played, and we need to play our best football moving forward, and that's the goal.
You mentioned South Carolina beating Georgia earlier in the season. As you look at them defensively, and you guys have studied them, and watching that Georgia game, I noticed that they were very aggressive up front, got in a lot of man coverage, were really physical with Georgia's receivers off the line. Has that been a consistent thing you've seen them do in other game film?
Yeah, that's the DNA of a Will Muschamp coached defense. They're going to have a tremendous front 4. All 4 of them are returning starters from last year. They got 2 linebackers back. There's one of their starting corners is back, J.C. Horn. So they have a lot of experience within the scheme. They're going to deny the ball playing man-to-man coverage. They're going to try to outnumber you in the box, and it's going to be a physical game. I believe Javion Kinlaw is one of the best defensive linemen in the SEC, which means he's one of the best defensive linemen in the country. He'll be a first-round draft pick, there's no doubt. He was a wrecking ball in that Georgia game and has been a very significant factor on their defensive scheme. So he's a guy that we have to contend with. But the thing is, they've got 4 returning starters up front, so all of them, make plays and penetrate and cause havoc. So we definitely have our hands full and have got to do a great job of handling the D-line and controlling the line of scrimmage.
Eli, the scoring drives against Georgia Southern were really fast scoring drives, and obviously that's kind of a product of you being down and kind of where they were happening. But how difficult is that to do, to mount a drive that goes? I think they were all like 2 minutes or under for the most part. So how difficult is that for a team to do?
I think in the conditions that game was played in, it's extremely difficult to do. My personal contention is if we would have tried to do that the entire game, the wind was such a factor. There was 3 balls that could have been intercepted just because of the accuracy of the throws. So, I think it was one of those rare things where everything clicked and we were able to make some plays, make some catches, make some scrambles that were able to allow us to do that. But that was a challenging game for sure.
You guys have beaten a team in UNC that's beaten this team, and I know it's really early in the season, but is that something that's beneficial at all for you and the coaching staff, or is that just something for other people to analyze and consider?
I really don't think so, because it's every team's so much different than the first game they played of the year. For South Carolina, they lost their quarterback. Their starting quarterback got injured that last play of the game, and now they're playing a true freshman, Ryan Helinski, who is an outstanding player, one of the top quarterbacks in the country coming out of high school last year. And so they've kind of meshed their identity. They play two quarterbacks. They also play a young man named Kerryon Joyner. So they've now become a different style of offense. They've got a tremendous wide receiver, Brian Edwards, who I think's, he's an NFL player for sure, probably a first or second round, third round pick. They've featured their running backs. Rico Dowdle, who's a North Carolina kid, is planning to be back. Tevin Feaster is a guy who transferred from Clemson. So they've got a tremendous stable of backs. And point being, they've now created a new identity offensively than they had that first week. And so I think they're a different team in terms of offense. Defensively, they played really well except for the last two drives of the game versus North Carolina. So, I think it was a 24-21 ball game, something like that at the end. So, I don't know if there's a lot you can take away.
And as a first-year coach, your first loss comes in almost in November.
Yeah.
Can you let yourself appreciate that at all?
No, I don't worry about anything regarding to me at all. This isn't about me. It's never been about me. It's about Appalachian State. It's about our football players. It's about our staff and our program and what we're trying to do. And, whenever the good Lord tells me I'm no longer coaching football, I'll look back on all the significant things that have occurred in my life. But right now, I go home and I take care of my baby girl throughout the night, and then I wake up and come back to work, and we're trying to find the best plan that we can to be 1-0 this week. And so, I don't worry about anything like that. Only rule I allowed myself to break was I was ticked off about that game for 48 hours instead of 24 hours. But we're moving on now, ready to rock and roll, and I got no time to look back, pat each other on the back, and we'll do that when I have a rocking chair, maybe.
Admittedly, I haven't done a lot on South Carolina yet. Can you just kind of – are they a passing team or running? Are they balanced?
Well, I think they're both. I know Coach Muschamp has challenged them to be more effective in the passing game the past 2 weeks, but they're still a team that's built on running the football. Specifically, they've got a really good offensive line that's big and physical. They like to what we call a G scheme, where they're pulling two offensive linemen, letting the tight end down block, and they do a nice job of creating an extra gap, so you've got to overflow there. And they've got RPOs off of it. And Ryan's got a really quick release. He sees the field. If you leave Brian Edwards one-on-one, just ask Vanderbilt, you're going to give up 140 yards and a touchdown, no problem. And that's what happened. So you got to kind of pick your poison. If you give corner or safety help to Brian, then you're you've given them a gap in the run game with their pool schemes. And so if you take away the extra gap with the pool schemes, then you're leaving him one-on-one. So they do a nice job of putting players in conflict, put your defensive scheme in conflict. We've got to destroy blocks, run to the football. We've got to be physical at the line of scrimmage, and we got to make tackles. We can't let a missed tackle turn into a 60-yard gain, which is what happened to us in the past, which has happened several times on our explosive runs. We've got guys that are there, designed to fit, and we've missed tackles. So point of emphasis yesterday was to get back in and tackle, and if we don't tackle, then we're going to give up explosive runs against these guys.
Did you see their film on Georgia, and did they do anything that – this may sound a little stupid, but as far as beating a number 3 team in the country, that maybe they struggled in some of their losses?
Well, I think their defensive front was extremely havoc-making, caused a lot of negative yardage plays. They had 2 turnovers, 1 for 7 points. The final score of that game was 24-21, something low scoring like that, and 10 of the points came off of turnovers. So the ability to turn the ball over and the ability to score with those turnovers, their quarterback got knocked out. They played Kerryon as the primary quarterback, who did a nice job in the second half. I thought he did an outstanding job of coming in, running the offense, running the football, throwing the football, doing what he needed to do, controlling the clock. And so I think the biggest thing when you watch that game is the defensive line, the way they were able to handle Georgia's offensive line. and then their corners making the 2 interceptions. In fact, it was Israel that had both of those interceptions.
I know some basketball coaches have complained about having a non-conference game right in the middle of conference. Does that make any difference to you guys?
We're just excited about the opportunity to play in a great venue like South Carolina, and wherever the schedule falls, that's our job. So I've got no real opinion on it.